From NPR, it's Trump's Trials. I'm Scott Detrow.
Supreme Court justices have issued a major ruling in an election case.
The Justice Department will be relentless in defending the right to vote.
Will you accept the results of the election?
If it's a fair and legal election, absolutely.
As a reminder, we are still following former President Donald Trump's legal issues, but we are also following potential legal challenges to this upcoming election. States are getting ready for this fall's election by lining up each party's electors for the Electoral College. This is the process that determines who will be the next president. And this year's potential electors include Republicans linked to efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. When we come back, NPR's voting rights correspondent Hansi Lo Wang has more.
The Constitution, our founding document, says a lot about how our country has evolved and who we want to be. But it's not set in stone. So for the next month, we'll be digging into the history behind some of its most pivotal amendments. Listen to We the People on the Throughline podcast from NPR.
What does the future of food look like as the climate continues to change? We'll bring you innovations and answers during NPR's Climate Solutions Week. Explore with us at npr.org/Climate Week.
You're listening to Trump's Trials. I'm Scott Detrow. And now, here's Juana Summers.
They've been called fake electors. In 2020, they got together in 7 states where former President Donald Trump lost the popular vote. They signed certificates that became part of a scheme to reverse Trump's defeat. Now, 14 of those pro-Trump electors are back. NPR's voting rights correspondent Hansi Lo Wang reports on how that's raising concerns for this year's election.
Those 14 returning pro-Trump electors are mainly current or former Republican leaders in swing states.
I'm not surprised.
Rebecca Green is an associate professor at William & Mary Law School.
The decision over who the electors are is a decision made by the political parties.
And the GOP of Michigan and Nevada have chosen Republicans who've been criminally charged with felony counts related to sending false certificates to Congress that claim Trump won their state's electoral votes in 2020. In Michigan, those Republicans have pleaded not guilty, and the charges in Nevada have been thrown out by a judge who says the prosecutors picked the wrong venue for the case. Still, Green says these charges send a strong signal to this year's electors.
Given that there have been prosecutions of electors for forgery and conspiracy, I would think that people in that position would think twice.
David Coleman is an attorney for one of the indicted Republicans in Michigan, Hank Choate, who in 2020, Coleman says, was relying on legal advice from GOP attorneys when he signed the second page of a certificate without reading the first.
Should these electors have read the document and all of that? I'm not going to disagree with that. But the reality, that's not what they're charged with. They're charged with a crime for having intent knowingly to defraud.
This year, Coleman says, if Vice President Harris is certified as the winner of Michigan's popular vote over Trump,
and there's another attempt to try to get the electors to sign something, you can bet I will be involved in that and will be giving appropriate advice and counsel to my client. I'll just leave it at that.
In Pennsylvania and New Mexico, pro-Trump electors in 2020 signed certificates with caveats that said those documents would only be used if a court overturned their state's election results. Several of those Republicans are back this year, and so far, none of them, including Ash Kare in Pennsylvania, have been charged.
When you heard about those charges in Michigan and Nevada, did anything cross your mind?
Well, what crossed our mind is that we were smart. They screwed up. They should have put the same caveat in like we did.
Andy Riley says they signed the certificate because of a legal fight over Pennsylvania's ballots, which, at the time, many legal experts saw to be going nowhere. Riley, who's an attorney, says he wanted to be a potential elector again this year because
I know sometimes in the heat of a campaign, people can get fervent and they can, cross the line. And I'm going to make sure that we do everything to preserve, if it's legal, the rights of the candidate, but without doing anything that I think would violate the law or the Constitution like I did the last time.
There's a big difference between did you violate a criminal law and did you do the right thing?
Mary McCord is a former Justice Department official who now teaches at Georgetown University Law Center. She helped bring a civil lawsuit in Wisconsin that led to a settlement agreement that bans unauthorized pro-Trump electors from backing Trump again. At the federal level, McCord points to changes to the law about the counting of electoral votes in Congress. She says they've made it harder for Trump's allies to try to overturn the election results again if he loses. For example, the law now requires 1/5 of both the U.S. House and Senate to object to a state's electoral votes, instead of just one representative and one senator.
It certainly raises the bar, but, it's not an impossible threshold to meet.
Especially, McCord warns, if in this age of disinformation, there's a false narrative about election fraud.
Thanks for listening to Trump's Trials from NPR. Keep an eye out for more episodes like this whenever big news happens. I'm Scott Detrow.
On How to Do Everything from the team at Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, we try to find the answers to all your burning questions.
I'd like to know, how do I get someone to tell me if I smell?
That's the perfect question for us. So we went over to her house and we sniffed her.
Because we care. Listen to the How to Do Everything podcast from NPR.
We'll sniff you, too.
Need a binge listen? Check out the latest series from NPR's Embedded podcast. It's called Tested. Since long before the Paris Olympics, women in sports have been asked to prove their gender.
There was chit-chat about, is that really a woman?
Listen to Tested, a new series from Embedded and CBC about the history and future of sex testing in sports. All episodes are out now.